Thank you very much for being here, Ted.
Thank you. Good afternoon. There's three things I wanted to talk you all through today. One, I wanted to give you an overview of what's happened in the world of location-based apps on mobile devices. The amount of growth in the past year has been phenomenal, and I wanted to walk you through some of the analysis that we've done there. I've got some great stats and data to show you about how individual users are actually using location-based apps on phones. And then lastly, I wanted to talk you through a new service we're rolling out for adding location to websites. So before that, just a quick commercial on Skyhook and what we do. We are the guys who drive the world scanning the streets for wireless signals from Wi-Fi base stations and cell towers. And we use all those signals to help improve GPS and provide better location for any mobile device, whether it's a cell phone, a laptop, or a netbook. And so today, after having done this for a bunch of years, we've amassed a reference system of over 100 million Wi-Fi access points and just under 1 million cell towers. And so that covers North America, Europe, and most of Asia. Our biggest deployment to date, as Brady was saying, is on the Apple products. So our technology ships with every iPod Touch and iPhone. And what they've done is they've integrated that into the core operating system so that any application can take advantage of this location. Kind of wrestling with him a little bit. Are you all set? And so what we do is we track every location-based app that's launched in the world. And if you look back a year ago, before the App Store opened up, there was maybe 10 to 20 legitimate location-based apps out there. There was a bunch of driving, turn-by-turn navigation apps, local search, and some friend finders. And it was actually very hard to roll these out. The big advancement that's happened in the past year is the App Store. You cannot overstate the impact that that's had in the location market. And very quickly, once that was rolled out and location was made free to developers, it worked all the time, it was accurate, we saw just an absolute explosion of new ideas and new applications. So from a couple of hundred last summer to literally over 2,000 individual applications use location on the iPhone. And now that the Android marketplace has opened up, as well as BlackBerry, we're now close to 2,500 different companies and ideas that are using location. That is just phenomenal when we look back at a year ago and there was only 10 or 20 different ideas. Now, what are these applications doing? There's actually just an incredible breadth of different ideas around using location. We were always asked for the last couple of years is what's going to be the killer app for location? And our response was always that there is no killer app because location isn't an application. Location is a piece of context about you that feeds into just about everything you do. And so what's actually more interesting than a killer app is just the sheer diversity of ideas that's emerged. And so clearly, if you can see on this chart, the biggest categories are local search and navigation, but it's fairly broad amongst different types of fitness applications, transportation, there's business apps. It's really phenomenal, the different set of ideas. And in social networking alone, as we saw at the panel earlier, there's literally 200 apps out there that do some form of location-based social networking. That's a lot of different companies trying to figure this all out. And what's really interesting in that category is nowhere in there is Facebook, MySpace, or Twitter. Those three companies do not use location in any way in their own systems. And you'd think that would be a natural next step. So it'll be very interesting to see how this all plays out. Now, I want to show you some ideas of real apps just to give you a sense for some of the creativity that's happening out there. And some of the ideas that you can see not only starting out just on mobile devices, but also transitioning over to the web. So there's some very simple ones that are functional you can use every day, like Trulia, the website you might be familiar with it's a real estate website for looking up homes and information about neighborhoods. When they rolled out onto their mobile app, they actually took a very brilliant approach. They made it very simple and said, what is the one thing somebody might want to do when thinking about buying a home when they're out and about with their phone? And mostly what people want to do is go check out open houses. People love to walk through other folks' homes. And all this is a button that says, show me the nearest open house around me. And so every Saturday, my wife sits on the soccer sideline, presses this button, and sees if there's a home nearby that she can scoot out and take a look at before the game's over. It's simple, but it gets used every single week. Taxi Magic is just brilliant, and you almost don't believe it works, but it does. In most major cities, you can open up this app, press a button, it will send your location to the cab company. They will alert the cab driver, and then you will get messages telling you how far away the cab is at any given time. So it's 2 minutes away, it's 1 minute away. And while you're waiting for the cab, you can actually pay for the cab with a credit card. So you can literally order the cab, get in the cab, drive all the way there, get out, and never have to actually talk to a person. So some other kind of wacky ideas, but they work. LastCall is in a series of applications that help you monitor your drinking. And what this does is allow you to gauge what your blood alcohol level might be at any given time by putting in, I just drank a beer, I just had a whiskey, I weigh 170 pounds, and it'll guess what your blood alcohol level is. With the idea being, if you get over the limit, you don't get in a car and drive. Now, if you're dumb enough to get in the car and drive and get pulled over, it has a handy feature which will actually put you in touch with the nearest DUI lawyer and let you dial it straight from the phone. Geocade is actually a service, not necessarily an app, that game developers use. And so one of the challenges when you play a game online and you're playing millions of other people is you never get in the top million, and it's kind of no fun no matter how good you are. You never beat that kid in Colorado who plays it 20 hours a day. What Geocade allows you to do at the end of the game is to narrow the group of people you're playing against to maybe your own neighborhood, your own city, your own state, and so you can keep shrinking your pond so you can become the big fish. And it's a really interesting way of thinking about location. The game isn't location-based, but the leaderboard is. And some even off-the-wall ideas, if you've ever remember being in a car when you were a kid and you were playing games to kill the time, or you've got kids today and you try and eat up that 3 to 5 hours, you might have played the license plate game where you go and you look at all the cars going by and try and find different license plates. Well, there's an app for that. These guys have built an app that allows you to mark down all the states that you see as you go along, and you get extra points for the further away you are from a particular state, because everyone knows Hawaii and Alaska are a bitch to find. Now, UFO Finder is currently my favorite app, because wherever you go, you can search for all of the UFO sightings that have been seen around you in the last 40 years. And it has all the information about it. It turns out, in the last 5 years, there have been some pretty hot UFO sightings right within a half a mile of here. And so you can't see on the text there, but in June of 2004, there was a very, very highly rated UFO sighting just down the block from here. And it's described as a strange, fuzzy white object in the sky. And that apparently qualifies as a very highly rated UFO sighting. So all that stuff is really neat, but is anyone using them? So as location guys, we want to see lots of apps, and we want to see people using them. And so we can monitor that across our entire network of devices. And so today, what we're seeing on average is over 250 million times a day, somebody is requesting their location on our system. So somebody's either doing a local search, somebody's sharing the location with friends, someone's playing the license plate game, 250 million times every single day. And so if you back that out against all the devices that use our system, the average user right now is checking their location about 6 times a day. That's 6 times for every single user. They're doing some sort of function to check their location. Now for somebody like me, I don't average 6 phone calls a day, and everyone is checking their location. So this is phenomenal, and this is something we're going to track. And what we're also seeing is if you look at other reports that say over time, over a month or two, people drop apps. They are dropping apps, but they're downloading new ones. And they're downloading new ones in an increasing number, and they're getting attached to some of them. So there's a novelty on particular apps, but the whole idea of using location appears to be something everyone enjoys. Now, we get to see a lot of this usage as well. Now, we don't know anything about a particular user. We don't know anything about where they've been. We don't know anything about that person. But we do know that somebody checked their location on our network at any particular spot. And so we can start to do some very interesting things. This, for example, is a full day in Times Square on our system. And so every one of those dots is somebody checking their location throughout the day. And so you start to see really interesting usage patterns. You heard Greg from Sense Networks yesterday talk about how we can start to interpret this information and predict what people might do. We're trying to do some of the same things, and we're doing it off of real usage across some 45 million devices. And so it's really, really incredible, but it's also very, very hard. No one's ever tried to look at this type of data. And you see it, it looks great on a map, and it's ooh, wow, but try to connect the dots is actually a very, very hard thing to do, but an incredible opportunity. And so what we wanted to do is show you something that might be relevant, and you can start to think about it yourself. How many people here actually were at South by Southwest? Was there anyone here? Actually, not that many. So you guys could be like me and pretend you were there. But take a look at this. What we did was try to look at all the usage throughout that event, because it's a heavy smartphone crowd, and most of those smartphones had our technology running on it. And so if this works, what you'll see is this is the downtown Austin area, and you'll see the Austin Convention Center there, and this is Saturday morning at 6 a.m. And as the day goes on, you'll start to see people waking up around those particular hotels on 6th Street or by the convention center. And then you see a flood of activity as people start to enter the convention center. As the day goes on, you'll see them spread out and go grab lunch around the area and then come back to the convention center. And so you can follow them around and see that as you go into the evening, you'll start to see events happening around town, and you can start to see these hotspots. These hotspots of red are about 100 people per 100 meters within that hour. Which is pretty active usage. And so if anyone was there, you can kind of relate to what was happening as people were walking around. You'll see 6th Street gets very busy late at night as people are leaving the bars and walking around waiting to go back to their hotels, and then you see folks collide back in their hotels. And then in the middle of the night, there's a couple of troopers out there still staying up at about 6 in the morning. And then the next day, again, the sessions start, the hotels get very hot, people get to get something to eat, they go to the sessions. Then you'll see in the middle of the day, spreads out again for lunch, back to the sessions. And so this is really, really interesting behavior, and if you know what's actually happening there, you can start to interpret this. And so we layered on geotagged Flickr images as well as tweets from Twitter that we knew around there. And so you can start to learn a lot, but you almost had to be there to do that, and try doing that across the world and knowing what's actually going on. And so that's some of the stuff we're trying to think about with this data. Lastly, I wanted to talk to you about an announcement we made today about a location service for web developers. We actually launched our service Loki about 3 years ago at the WARE conference, and it's been a tremendous success for us to understand how people use this, the millions of people that have tried it, websites have integrated with it. But the challenge we had was Loki was a toolbar that you added to the browser so that you could location-enable websites and do location-enabled searches. But toolbars have their issues with installs, browser restarts, and people just don't like them taking up real estate. So what we've developed is a plugin that websites can enable through a couple of lines of JavaScript and push the location code down to the user in a lot more easy way with just 1 or 2 clicks. You don't have to restart the browser, and all of a sudden they're enabled. And so we spent a bunch of time recruiting major websites to add this to their site. And so today we announced about 20 different websites that use the Loki plugin as part of the site, and some really big ones like WeatherBug, MapQuest, and Flickr. So if you go to the weatherbug.com site, you'll see where you normally put in your zip code, there's a Locate Me button, which you can click. If you have the Loki plugin installed, boom, plot your location, you're done. If it doesn't, it'll ask you to install it very quickly, and you'll be up and running. You can go to mapquest.com/findme, and the same process works. Flickr has a map, and you can find all the images around you that are geotagged on Flickr. So we really, really encourage you folks to try it out and start to look at location enabling your content, and then hopefully down the road we can look at different ways to location enable advertising. And as you get into this stuff, and we were one of the big promoters of the W3C standard around location, so there are other folks that do this. We just ask that you look at the kinds of services they're providing and the coverage. We built a company on providing solid, reliable location wherever you are. Not sometimes, that works well here, but not there. We've done the work to really drive every street to make sure you get good location where you go. So if you know the Atlanta area, this is a map of all of our access points in the Atlanta area. And this is great stuff. And if you try another system, you'll see different types of coverage like this. Some areas of town it's great, some areas of town it just has nothing. And if you want to roll out a service that people enjoy and expect to have good accuracy, and you're not dropping back to something like a cell tower or IP address, you should look at a service that has solid coverage wherever you want to deploy. So please go to the Loki.com website and take a look at that. We'd love to see how you deploy it on your sites. And thank you to Brady and the O'Reilly folks.